Okay, so here we are, ready to talk about the work. So thank you, BJ Shea is my fabulous guest today. And so I love this. I love this experience of talking about the work. As many of you know who've watched some of these interviews, some people are certified facilitators who've been doing the work with people and themselves for a long time. Some just talk about bumping into the work and how it affected their lives and what happened and what works for them. And some people are continue to do the work. Anyone who's enthusiastic and noticing about change in their life with the work, which is kind of nice to notice over time. And you indeed have been one of these people.
I have been a person. I have. The entire time I was a person,
You were a
and I
person.
remain so.
Yeah.
I do remain so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The work is something that has resonated with me big time. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back. So let's say a little bit about, how you even learned about the work and when you bumped into it, but like what you were like before and when it first came across your path, what you thought and what happened,
What was I like before? Wow.
Yeah.
Grace, I think you should really ask my wife and my children and my coworkers and my siblings and my relatives. They would probably give you a colorful description. I would say I was definitely a person who was so believing my thoughts and hating every single one of them. So I really was reverse work. It's like, I believe all these thoughts and I hate you all. That was that. And I lived my life that way. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but yeah, I would say that's what I was. Stuff would come in my head. I would believe it. I would be miserable. I would wish these thoughts weren't there. I was very miserable, and I also spread that misery. It really was, gosh, it was a very unpleasant existence and really for people around me, more than I realized how much it was for me until it finally dawned on me. That was like, I'm not too happy either. Everyone else is unhappy around me, but now I'm noticing I'm not happy either.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? It's like the, maybe this will come, I like the, some people have a bunch of positive thoughts, a bunch of negative thoughts, and I don't like the negative ones. And I'm trying to do it's just, I get what you're saying. Like, and then some people have traumatic experiences about which they continue to think unpleasant thoughts, but then there are other positive moments. And so what you're telling me is that most of your thoughts, most of the time, you were like, I don't like that thought, which is a really interesting identity in some ways. I am the one who's unhappy.
Yeah, you think of Eeyore, and my wife would be, oh, the crab's in town, the crab is around. It was almost cartoon-like, just how miserable I was. And eventually, at one point, somebody had said to me, you're kind of a self-loathing bastard, aren't you? And I'm like, I was like, wow. It's really good to have good friends.
So, all right, there you are. You experience unhappiness, which is that's tough. It's tough. And were you searching for ways to relax or calm this down, or did you just wind up backing into the work and falling into it, or how did that happen?
Grace, I was very, very fortunate that early on in my life, I met my wife, and she was 18, I was 20, and for as long as I've known her, she's been a searcher. And so I felt like, okay, here's a kindred spirit that's not happy with this world. And she was looking for an answer. So I thought, okay, this person might be cool to be around. At least she's not happy. I'm not happy. Hey, codependency, let's do it. But because of her nature of searching, I, through osmosis, sometimes being dragged along, she would expose me to everything. I would kick and scream along the way. I have to say, Byron Katie's, her book, Loving What Is, was in my living room for 10 years. Because my wife had done the work and had told me about it years ago, and yeah, there it is in our living room. And I remember when my couples counselor finally said to me, I got something that might be kind of cool for you. And she said, "It's Byron Katie." And I turned to my wife, I go, "That sounds familiar." And Kathy's like, "Yeah, we have the book in the living room if you want to go check it out." We do. Well, and when I started reading the book, I just had to laugh. I thought, wow, this is making a lot of sense. And this has been collecting dust right over there for 10 years.
Isn't
And I'm
that
like, wow.
funny? Oh my God.
Uh, but, it was the perfect time, obviously.
Mhm.
And I don't, Grace, I don't know what it is. I've done a lot of things and had been to seminars and done a lot of different things. So it's not like I didn't try to improve myself. But if for some reason, I don't know, with all the stuff that I'd done, all the couples counseling, all my own counseling, and been decades in therapy, picking up that book, it was just, whoa, for some reason, it was a language that spoke to me. It really just made sense. And so much in this world didn't make sense to me. And I really, really tried hard to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it was just this simple language, basically, "Hey, buddy, maybe you're believing a lot of crazy stuff that isn't true. Like maybe all of it."
Don't you love it? Like at the first time you ever get like, there is this question that you can answer and just really consider, is it true? Like, oh, it's fantastic. I don't know. It's so funny, right?
And I tend to be, I've had this sort of spiteful relationship sometimes with my wife, which I found out through the work that in fact it was all my projection. But I wanted to prove her wrong. I wanted to prove everybody wrong. That's my thing. It's like, I'll show you I don't need therapy. I'll show you. And so I thought, okay, so this Katie says that you can just go basically to her website and everything you need is there. And I'm like, oh yeah, but then there's this day thing and then there's a week thing. And I've been to other seminars where it was like, come get some more and pay some more and pay. So I really was going, this was who I was 3 years ago, and pretty much my whole life. I was not going for me. I was going to disprove Katie and all of it. I was
Oh,
going to,
so funny.
I was going to show my wife that she's wrong and everybody's wrong, that you're all wrong. I'll still be miserable, but you'll all be wrong. That was my plan. It's a great plan.
Wow. That's hilarious. I don't think I'd heard you say that before.
Yeah, it was really the truth of how I was and how I'd been in my life. I just didn't want to think that it was me. I really wanted to think that it was everybody else, and the whole place is the whole place is a rotten apple. So if the whole place was a rotten apple, the whole world was a bad place, then my existence actually had justification. I'm suffering because this world's horrible. That's the only reason. I will go to your seminars and I'll show you. And I mean, I went to that day seminar and I thought, wow, it just seems like all we're doing is what's on her website. It's these 4 questions, like she said. And I thought, well, I'll go to this week thing. I'll go to this school and I'll see, this is where they'll go, hey, by the way, there's more. And then they're like, all right, buddy, here are these 4 questions. That's it? That's all we're doing? This is on your website. It's free. What? And it really was all that. And Katie was just like, hey, man, hopefully this works for you. I'd never been to something where it's like the person in charge goes, hey, work for me. Hope it works for you. And I'm, really? You're not going to like try to use some airy fairy language or some mumbo jumbo and tell me you have the power? It's just like, I mean, it was just, hey, hopefully this works for you.
Yeah.
And then more and more, I saw that, her work was being accepted by so many people, in the world of psychology, psychiatry. And then I found out a lot of Eastern philosophy. Really, it seemed to be something that was just jiving with. And my wife was sort of like, oh yeah, this is kind of the stuff I read about with Maharshi and all the stuff she's into. And I'm sitting there going, wow, because and my brain was like, really? Because it seems so simple to me. How I don't get that it's like it's all just making sense. So yeah, I mean, and you and I, of course, I mean, I don't know if you remember so much, but I mean, our getting to know each other, I smile about it now because 3 years ago I remembered me and I still remember me and think, Oh, I was student of the year, I'm sure, uh, in one of the telecourses.
Yes. So you had already done the school. I remember that. Well,
Yeah.
let's tell about that. I love that our meeting. I think that's I remember it. I mean, I remember being in class. But first, I wanted to ask you: was there anything that like during that school? Because I know Katie sort of walks people through. I mean, everyone gets to do their own work and write worksheets and identify their thoughts. Like you said, it is free. It's the same as what's offered free on the website. Just it's funny how humans don't sit and do it, which is what you get to do when you go to the school. I think you just get to actually sit there and do it and like actually answer the questions. But was there a like a significant or moment in there of something that you were doing the work on that you kind of went, oh, or anything like that that you remember at the school?
Well, I had the agenda of proving it all wrong and proving everybody to be a charlatan. So I had that agenda.
Wow.
And that was really frustrating because it just, no matter how I tried to, there was nobody telling me anything. There were moments where I had some things happen and I would go and I'd ask for guidance. And I wouldn't say lack of guidance, but the lack of telling me what to do. The idea was, well, what do you think works for you? And it was interesting to
Mm,
think that the message was, we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to show you a pathway that will get you to realize you're the one that can tell you what to do.
yeah.
And I mean, there was a line that was, it was like, which I thought was surprising. It's like, and we're doing the work. If you don't want to do the work, you don't have to. I mean, you can just sit here, you can hang out, do whatever. I'm just like, what do you mean I don't have to? I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? And they're like, well, if you believe you're supposed to be doing it, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. But if you don't think you should do it, and I couldn't get an answer. A person that thought, just tell me what's right and wrong. And they're like, how can I tell you what's right or wrong? And I really was baffled by that because I was raised Catholic. I was raised in New England. There was always right and wrong. There was always, you do it this way, my way or the highway. So
Yeah.
and obviously, I mean, there is a process. So I thought, okay, there's a process. I should do that process. And they go, yeah, if you want. If you want. What? I couldn't get anybody to tell me what to do,
Yeah.
which was fascinating because I know they wanted to be helpful at the same time.
Mm,
Everybody so much wanted to be helpful and everybody really genuinely seemed to care, but nobody would tell me what decisions to make for me. And that was
wow.
frustrating because
Mm.
how can I expose anybody for anything if they're saying, do what's best for you, whatever you want to do?
How can you
And
argue
like,
with that? You can't. How can you be at war with that if somebody's, oh, okay.
oh, I tried. I will tell you, I tried to be at war with it. I had a mission. Grace. That was what was really profound for me,
Uh,
was the idea that these folks are not going to tell me what to do. They're going to say, this is a cool thing. Hopefully it works. And I don't think I've ever had that kind of freedom in my life given to me by anybody that I remember. Or if it was, I surely didn't remember it and maybe didn't think it was possible, but they just wouldn't do it. That's what stuck out. There was so much beauty and so many awesome things that happened,
mm-hmm.
but that stuck out. The idea that I can do what I want, I can choose.
Mm,
What? Really? And
wow.
it's like there's no wrong way to do anything.
Yeah.
I just love the idea. Well, if you want to do the work, you can do this, but if you don't, there's no wrong way to do it. I'm like, wait a minute, you just said this is how you're supposed to
Yeah.
do it. And
I
they're like, well,
agree.
this is a good way to do it, but whatever you do works. And
I,
that blew my mind.
wow. That's so
It,
cool. Amazing.
yeah, that
Right.
really blew my mind.
Freedom. Like a really like seeing, wow, if I have absolute freedom, what do I do? Oh no, my God, I can't. Yeah.
Well, it really it basically, what I discovered at the school was there were two voices. That was the thing that was really important to me. I started noticing that the only voice, the only detractor, the only negative voice was one that was in my head because I couldn't get them to be a negative voice. I
Ah,
tried, or this other voice tried. There
wow.
was no combat. So the only combat I could hear in the stillness and the quiet, because there was a lot of quiet, a lot of stillness,
Mm-hmm.
I started noticing there was only one detractor. There was only one voice. And I'm like, oh, it was, yeah, it was the
Funny.
idea that I was in an environment where basically nobody would participate in drama. And I'm somebody that was really good at creating drama. And from time to time, I still can, if I forget that, oh yeah, what am I doing? I'm believing thoughts. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in an environment where it's just like, they're in a no drama zone. They're just like, okay, if I want to scream and yell, they're going, okay. If I don't want to scream and yell, if I don't want to go, if I want to do anything I want, it was just like, okay. And, and it wasn't it was an okay with no judgment. They were like, oh yeah, if you think it works for you, why not?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, there's nobody judging me. That was the other thing, Grace. To be in a judge-free zone
Yeah.
was nuts. And people of all ages, all ethnicities, all this, all that. People who I would look at and go, oh, that person over there, that's the kind of person oh yeah, I'm going to go up there and tell them right now, don't even begin to judge me. And they were just nice. Everybody was nice. It was just, but at the same time, they were human. It wasn't like they were fake. They were just like, well, they were like, I see no reason to judge you. What's the point of that?
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, yeah. So it really was just, oh boy. It was like, oh boy, there's
Wow.
only one person judging around here, isn't there? Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's awesome. All right. That's so
Yeah.
cool. It's so interesting. Yeah. Like I'm almost, it sounds like you're used to sort of getting into it, and like maybe I even want to pick a fight and I can't pick one. Like I'm ready. That's how I am, Oh, and it's different. Well,
Yeah.
it was after that you did a school,
In a
and
school.
then you signed up for some follow-up classes, which they have at the Institute for the Work. And there
Yes,
you
they
were.
do.
And I believe that is how we met.
Yes, found out that if you really wanted to learn about the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet and really like get into it, get to the meats and the potatoes, you take a course. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's see what's going on. And that's where I was introduced to the Grace Squared combo,
Right.
Grace to the B, and Patrini Grace as well. And that's so that's where it's like, okay, we're going to learn it. We're going to do it. And I remember still running into that level of frustration where I couldn't get anybody to tell me what to do. And I was like, rules and whatever. And there was and this is where I tell everybody, they said, so was it the school that really was, I guess, a turning point or anything? And I said, no, the school wasn't a turning point. There were a lot of great moments. It was your telecourse that was the turning point. I tell everybody, my brain broke during the telecourse, and it was, and I don't know if you remember, Grace, but it was like we were supposed, during a telecourse, hey, bring something for Judge Your Neighbor, bring us something to work on, and it seemed like every time I brought something to work on, something would happen during the telecourse. By the time the first student was getting done, and by the time it got to me, something triggered me, and I ended up working on that instead of whatever I was bringing. I always had a problem with something at the telecourse. And I'm like, oh, I have something to work on right now. And I would take my book, forget that, Judge Your Neighbor.
Yeah.
And I would say 50% of the time, at least, it might have been the folks leading the telecourse, maybe.
Right.
I don't know. It might have been somebody in this room. Not too sure. We'll get back to you.
I remember. Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, the things I would write, it was so wonderful, knowing now what I know about the whole process. But I mean, I went right to statement 5 with every time. It's like, I go, you know what? Let's skip the want, shoulds, and needs. Let's just go to where I get to call them every bad name in the book.
Yes.
And I would go, that Grace is, I would pull out the thesaurus, this and that, and I'm going to go to the letter B, and let's go to C. And I just, every word in the book, I was just so frustrated, so mad. And eventually we got to one. This is what broke my brain, and I loved it. I had really what I thought was something I really wanted to work on, and I was really mad about it and whatever. And I said, okay, this is what I'm going to work on. And I forget what it was, but I remember that what you guys had said to me, said, I don't really think that's something that is judge your name. Like we don't think that's really a big problem to work on. It doesn't sound like that's a problem. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm really upset about this. You told me not to work on it. You're like, I don't
Oh,
think you should work on that. You should work on something else. And I'm like, I'm fuming about this issue, thinking I'm ready to judge a neighbor on this. And it was about my boss. And you're like, yeah, I don't think that's really what you should work on. It doesn't sound like that's really a problem. And so you said, we'll get back to you. Maybe something else will come up for you and we'll go take somebody else. And so I remember, Grace, I was fuming. I was like, I was stomping around my house going, so now they're telling me I can't work on this? I thought it was all about choice. I can't believe. And so I am yelling and screaming at myself. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of screaming and yelling, I just let out this one statement. I can't believe they're not going to let me be mad about what I want to be mad about. And they tell me I got to be mad about something else. And then I look and I go, so wait, let me get this straight. I'm mad because I can't be mad about something I want to be mad about. And then my mind said, what? If something in my brain broke in that moment where I was like, this is, and my blood pressure was up and I was angry and I just stopped and I'm like, wait a minute, I am flipping out because I can't be mad about what I want to be mad about because somebody told me maybe it's not really what you can be mad about. Maybe there's something else to be mad about. And I'm mad about them telling me how I can be mad. And all of a sudden I just started laughing and I thought, this has been my entire life. It was just like, this is my whole life.
wow.
I am tripping over what? And that it was from that moment forward that I just I couldn't look at life again. It was whatever that moment broke it broke me. It just broke my brain.
Wow.
It
I
was I remember
Yeah. And I remember, I think it was either before or after that, this has been a very fascinating thing. You're not the only person I've ever done it with, where I said, like, you know what? Let's go. It's scary to hear what, like, a judge your neighbor worksheet on you, like, and it was like, this is what I'm thinking about you. And I'm like, let's go, let's do it. And weren't we like talking, I think, separately from the time of the meeting of the class? Yeah.
oh yeah, that was another thing I would do. It's like, I'm going to talk to the people in charge right now.
Yeah. Yes, right. I have to register a complaint.
Who's in charge of this show? I'll show all of you. You don't know how to run a course. And what I remember, Grace, was that you just were you no matter what. I just thought, she's really quite delightful as I'm yelling at her. I have to say that's, it's like she's
Great.
quite delightful no matter what she's doing. And it just really was, and it brought me back to the school. I was like, oh yeah, she's just going to go, all right, well, I get that. That was your thing. And then you were also quite forthcoming, and you would just say, whatever was going on for you in the moment, going, yeah, and I just thought, I'm really angry and upset, and she's very reasonable. And I remember thinking, gosh, I would love to be that reasonable when somebody was angry or upset with me, or if I thought somebody was angry or upset. I really thought that's a great thing to embody, because it made me feel heard, safe. I mean, it was like, whoa, the way you be. And it's the way you always be, Grace. I could say, well, it was that one moment you were like that, but it was like, that moment when you were Grace, that's what that.
Well, it's great. I have found it part of my own personal work is even being okay in the presence of somebody who's really mad, and even my own anger being absolutely fine. Like, I remember doing a worksheet and realizing, wow, I have a problem with anger. Like, I think people should never be angry. That's crazy. And I just really felt the full, long time ago, just the fullness of, wow, what if it was absolutely fine for somebody to be angry? It's totally safe. In fact, what's the reality? Anger exists, right? Like, What's the reality? Sometimes we get angry. So the work, what I got in that moment of recognition for that way back for me was, and it doesn't mean I'm constantly completely comfortable with anger every minute when somebody's angry. I mean, no, but it put it on a whole different level instead of avoiding. And also the work isn't about making sure that you're never angry, never afraid, never stressed, never, some people are like, oh, that sounds great. I think I'll do the work of Byron Katie and do this 4 questions. And then I'll just be like, you know, feeling nothing at all times. No, sometimes it's the reality of actually fully feeling it all. And yeah, so I remember appreciating your honesty. Just very grateful. Somebody's willing to say what they think, like that's a cool thing.
Well, and being from Boston, that's something that we do very well. It's it's a flavor of everything. And so that energy is just, I'm very familiar with that energy. That energy, I don't have any sort of tough time with
Yeah.
that. And I'm happy now that I can tell that energy, hey, wait a second, there's other things to experience, there's other ways to go through. And through my own therapeutic process, realizing that anger is sometimes gets in the way of feeling sadness and pain. And so it's like, okay, anger, we don't need you right now.
Yeah.
Let's feel the real deal here. What's happening?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think back on those moments, Grace, and I'm just like, I know it. I experienced it. I remember everything that I'm telling you, and I have no idea why. I can't give you a good reason as to why any of that needs to happen. Which is a beautiful thing about doing the work, is I remember everything about me. I call myself a recovering verbal abuser. It's what I went to get therapy for. I was really horribly verbally abusive to the people in my life, and I think back and I remember doing all of it, and I cannot for the life of me think of any reason why any of it would have been necessary. And I think that's just, for me, the grace of this work. I know what I thought the reasons were, but as I sit here, I think, well, that was really silly. That reason makes no sense at all. And I attribute that just to the work basically allowing me to see the truth of the moment that I'm in, and realizing, oh my gosh, and the one person that I never realized I abused mostly was myself. I could see everybody else that, oh yeah, I need to stop this. I get it now. I had no idea that the one person that was there every time was me.
Yeah.
So I verbally abused me more than anybody else in my life. And I hadn't really even entertained that idea. But when they're screaming and yelling, I'm hearing that too. And it's like, oh yeah, that's some good, that's some childhood stuff. That's the images that show up, and it's like, oh yeah, okay. And I can understand that, oh yeah, I thought I needed to do that, but I don't know, like I didn't have a better idea, but now I look at it and go, oh yeah, I don't need to do that. Well, there's really no reason to ever do that. I mean, unless I intentionally think the energy would be helpful, but
yeah.
I mean, hey, there's probably many other ways to go.
Yeah.
Unless you have a person named Grace that would like to, learn that and keep learning and is willing to, and looking forward to experiencing that again. If I'm needed, all right, here I am.
You'll show up. Yes.
Let me know.
BJ. Yeah. Well, it's a really cool thing to actually hear what you're saying, because a lot of people, when they come in to the work, where they say they are is, I just want to do the work on myself. I get that nobody else, like there's a lot out there. They've maybe do a bunch of work. They've done some therapy. They've relaxed. They're not so angry, whatever, something. And, or they just naturally leaned towards less, like more internal criticism of the world and not really yelling and holding it in. And then what they say is, but I have great trouble with myself. I have great trouble with myself. I'm very, abusive, critical, caustic. My identity is with the self. So I want to do the work on myself. And Katie says, let's do it on other people. Let's do it on other people. Let's just judge the heck out of all those people so that we really have it right in front of us. Because doing it on yourself, and I love doing that. I love turning it around towards the other people and judging them. But what's interesting about all that is this work is about noticing the war that you have. And if you mostly have a war with yourself, that is still a war. That's a war with reality. You are arguing with reality. If you're saying, I should do this better, I should do that better, I'm an idiot, I'm so stupid, I'm ugly, like all these things, that's mean to yourself. Or it's like arguing. It's arguing with reality. So, but it's trickier for some people to relax on that
Well,
part.
that's I think one of the big reasons why the work was so attractive to me, because I was judging everybody. I'm really good at that. That's like, that's my superpower, is judging everybody, because I never looked at me. It was the world. It was like that
Uh,
guy, that person, that woman, that child. So to give me a worksheet and go, hey, do you think, because I remember being at places saying, I really don't have anybody to complain about. I was thinking maybe, should I complain about me? And I go, I got plenty of people to complain about. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to do a judge your neighbor on you, as a matter of fact. I easily could just point at anybody and everybody. Uh, it, it's really fascinating how easy that comes to me,
yeah,
which I love, because that's a wonderful process, because then I don't think I'm working on me. And then with the whole process, getting
yeah,
all of it, and especially with the judge your neighbor, the meditation we do with the wants, the shoulds, the needs, and then getting to the questions and the turnarounds. And next thing I know, I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
The
got it.
the freedom to write that and let it rip, and not put a lid on it, and not let, like, if you are somebody, anyone listening here who might have been like me some and thought you shouldn't be so judgmental of all those people, and you're just like tamping it down. Oh man, such freedom to just go ahead and let yourself be so judgmental and just see what is in there. Just let it out. It's like a lancing a wound. I think, it's just, oh,
I'll be I'll be today's wound that will be lanced. Yes. Yeah, it's so
yeah,
true.
I mean, just
Yeah.
letting it, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm a verbal processor, so it really is. It's really helpful, and it's wonderful, because I get to see I'm doing this. Oh, and then of course, Grace, as you do this work and you really get into it and you realize I can't know anything but from my own perspective, everything just fell into place. It was just like a little game of Tetris. It's like, oh my gosh, it makes complete sense. Everything just made so much sense. It's like, I can't know anything. Well, no wonder I'm so frustrated, because I'm trying to do what I can't do. I will never understand anybody or anything or any whatever. And then Katie with, three orders of business, my business, your business, God's or reality's business. And all I was in everybody else's business. And then I would get into God's business and have massive arguments with God. Like, let me tell you something, buddy. And
Oh yeah,
and it was, but I never, I mean, wait, all I have to do is just worry about my business, and then realizing, well, it really is the only business I can know. I, it really was, it just occurred to me that if I look at somebody and go, oh, that person just gave me a dirty look. Oh, I know why they did that. It occurred to me, my mind said, and I remember this is just my mind said, well, now that you got me working for you, I mean, you're telling me I got to help you and work for you. You realize that, you aren't in her head. You are only in your head. So the only thing you can do is imagine what it would be like if you gave somebody a dirty look, and then your horrible motivation behind it. That's the best you can do. So if you think you know what she's doing, all you know is what you would do if you wanted to give somebody a dirty look. And I'm like, oh, you're
wow,
right.
yeah.
Wow. So like I'm the villain of my own story. It's like that's all I can do. That's all I can do. If I want to point to a political figure, I want to point to my wife, I want to point to my kids. All I can do is like, well, if I were a teenage girl who was the daughter of somebody like me, what would I do? As opposed to, I know what she's doing. I
Yeah,
can only know what I would do if I were a teenage girl who had me
yeah,
for a father.
yeah,
That's, and that whole shifting was just because of the work. It's like I can never know anything but my filter. I can only know what's going on in my brain. And even then, do I? But I mean, that's the best I can hope for.
yeah, yeah.
That's so freeing though, Grace. That that was like, ah, wow. because my entire life I was told I needed to know much more than I really could ever know. You know, I mean, that's just how I was raised. You need to know better.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
great is that?
Right.
How great is that? That one line is you need to know better.
Right. That's
Whereas
a
I
good
could
one.
hear Katie going, do you? What you know right now is the best you can know, or you would know better. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like, so I don't need to know better. I
Yeah.
just need to know what I know, because otherwise I would know something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And so exciting too, just even like that, it's been very sweet to hear somebody like Katie that has such a massive shift in her whole perspective and then shares it with us all. But all that, for some of the others of us, it's like a slowly, it's easier maybe, it's like, but to have that don't know mind that she speaks of, like it really is, it's a free place. It's a loving place. You don't have to know, the mind will be like, no, I want to know things. That's my job. But it's okay. It's safe to not know, like, what's going to happen tomorrow. And
I remember it's so funny because I love watching a lot of movies and TV shows. That's my go-to. And you talk about the universe being for me. I've been getting those messages for a long time. I didn't know that's what they meant. Game of Thrones, the main character, probably the nicest character, the one that's the most wholesome, the one that might be the best. Everybody else was probably not the greatest character, not the greatest person, how they were portrayed. The one character who everybody could agree is, yeah, he's actually a really good person. He kept getting the message, you know nothing, Jon Snow. And I kept thinking, like, why would they tell him that? He's the only guy who's a good guy on this show. Everybody else is an idiot. Why is he? And then I'm like, oh, beginner's mind,
yeah,
right?
know nothing.
If he,
Good news.
yes, if he knows nothing, then
Mm.
he really has wisdom. Which,
Wow.
yeah, it's like, if I know what I don't know, then I'm wise. It doesn't matter what I know. I need to know
Yeah.
what I don't know.
Yeah.
And Grace, I found out I don't know a lot. There's a lot I don't know, and it keeps getting bigger every day, as a matter of fact.
That don't know territory just grows and grows. But
Oh,
good.
it's a big library, and then there's
Yeah.
another wing and another wing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I love that you come back and do the work, and you come to retreats, you do tune-ups, you come in and do little tune-ups, and let's see where we're at here with the mind. It's just so fun, like how great to have the mind be like an ally instead of an
It's
enemy.
a lot. It's a wonderful adventure because I'm taking a journey into me, which means everybody around me is working for me. If the wor- if everything is happening for me, and that and I really started to embrace that philosophy. I thought, okay, let me see, is that a thing? I'm like, ooh, yeah, I can dig that. That means then, oh, you want me to sit down and do inquiry, and you want me to do a journey into me? That's well, then I'm going on an adventure because it's all for me. There's nothing bad going to happen if everything's for me. I'm journeying into me, and all these wonderful people are coming along, asking me my questions, doing what they're doing. Me and just watching people do what they do, and it's fun. I know it sounds. I mean, to some people it might sound crazy, but for me, it's a vacation into me.
Yeah.
I love taking a full week and going right into it because I'm getting to learn more. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
it's like a new place to go now. It's like, oh, I didn't know this is what it was about. Cool, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's find out more about what I don't know. And then the more I know, the more I learn, the less I know, which is even great. It's like, oh, all right. It would, I know 10 years ago I'd go, what? But
Yeah.
it makes so
Yeah.
much sense to
Yeah.
I'm just emptying the mind of all this stuff. And
Yeah.
it's delightful. And I just love more and more people. I'm realizing that was the key. What I looked at and had such disdain was merely just everybody who I looked at that reminded me of me, because that's the best they could be anyway. What am I seeing? I'm just seeing me,
Yeah.
really. Because again,
Yeah.
it's these eyes, this
Right.
brain.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
great brain. There's a great brain scientist in our lovely state of Washington, Dr. John Medina, who says we don't see with our eyes, we don't hear with our ears. We see with our brain and hear with our brain. So I'm looking at what I think is there, but my brain is telling me what's there.
Yeah.
and my brain is going through the filter of me and whatever it is I believe. And oh, hey, all of a sudden I'm seeing whatever I'm seeing. Now that I'm really digging me more because I'm getting to know me and all this, it's like everywhere I look, I'm seeing people that I dig. And it's like, well, of course I'm seeing me. That's why I'm loving me. So of course I'm seeing what I love. And it's yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm not perfect, but but the spaces between the times where I'm not loving what is are getting bigger. That's the fun part. There are moments where I'm not loving what is, but I eventually figure it out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
eventually I realize, am I not loving what is? Oh yeah, I'm not loving what is. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to
Yeah.
think of it. I like to think of it. The gaps just get close. Like it used to be just one gigantic, always before I ever thought about questioning my thoughts, in this particular way. It was like just one thing after another, as Churchill said
Yeah.
with his one thing after another. That's just one thing after another that happens. Now maybe that's still true, that here comes another thing happening, but it's kind of like, ooh, what's she gonna do this time? Or like how, oh, she's having a reaction. It's just, but the gap is super, and sometimes it's shockingly narrow. It's like thing happens, seems like a gigantic emergency. Oh no, can't take one more thing in this life. Like the drama. And then like an hour later, wait a minute, is it true? What? Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, you had your nervous system kind of went off. It's just funny. I mean, very interesting. So
Yeah.
watch it happen. And I think it's the difference between believing and not. You're still thinking.
Believing or no?
Yeah. Still thinking. Believe it
This
or
concept is
not.
new to me. This whole believing concept thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I like is I like going back because it's funny how quick those beliefs come. I believe it, and then I'm going along with my day. Next thing I know, I am not in a good mood,
Yeah.
and I don't realize it was something from 10
Yeah.
minutes ago.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and I just love the idea of going, okay, and I stop and I go, wait a minute, all right, I am not in a good mood. What happened? And like, oh, there must have been a belief that got through. I had
Yeah.
to be a belief that got through because I mean, and
Yeah.
I never even used to think like that.
Yeah.
And to be able to also for me right now to be triggered 100%, to have my body just have reactions like, okay, I'm in a fight or flight mode, or my mind says it really feels like everybody's trying to be mean to you, my mind sort of comes to me
Yeah.
tentatively now and says,
Yeah.
look, I know we're not supposed to believe people are bad, but it feels like people are bad. What do you think? But I don't know, how's your body feel?
Yeah.
And like, I know mind, I know what it feels like. I get it. It does feel like the old times. But
Mhm.
as we know, nobody's really intending to do this. And it's wonderful to be able to be in that fight or flight mode and say, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I know that this reaction, the only way I should have this reaction is if I was in the Serengeti and an animal was about to eat me. So first I can look around and go, no, I'm still in my living room. And 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 the Tiger King hasn't released any of his tigers, so I think I'm okay. And just to be, even though, and then to go, okay, I don't exactly know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and I can even tell the people around me and go, I am tripping. I am really tripping. I know it is not you, and I just sort of narrate my way through, which is something I never did before. I would just feel what I would feel, and then I would go, all right, I need to not feel this way. Defense mechanisms kick in,
Yeah.
find the enemy, stop the enemy,
Yeah.
and basically dissociative disorder. And I always thought if you disassociated, you sort of checked out.
Uh-huh.
And for me, my disassociation was verbal. So if I'm screaming and yelling, I think I'm present, but actually I'm not. That was something I learned, at least through therapy. So as soon as those impulses come up, oh, that person right there, they're the reason. I'm now able to go, we know they're not the reason. Look at them. That's your sweet wife. Come on, she's not even thinking about you. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so, and to be able to have that voice too, that's what I love about it, is there's another voice. There's a voice of reason,
Yeah.
just because of the work, just training myself to go, I know it's something else because the universe is a friendly place. So there's nobody trying to hurt me, even if it feels like somebody's trying to hurt me. I know nobody's trying to hurt me. So then I get to breathe through it, be with it. And I love where it's like, I get to label it. I get to be with it. I'm not going to say get rid of it. It's like, okay, this is what we got going on. Like Katie's meditation, all right, I'll label it really simple. Thank you for sharing your life with me. You tremendous, wonderful fight or flight thing, body shaking, feeling like, oh, every
Yes,
bit of attack.
fear. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here, fear.
Thank you, fear. You're awesome.
Doing your
And
job.
I'm supposed to love you, but not believe you. Okay. But yeah, but even the idea that I can recognize and think of that
Sure.
is just a wonderful place to be. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to walk in the world and go, I'm always happy.
Yeah,
Just to
that.
sort of be in it and go, look, I'm in it.
Yeah.
And I just noticed in my marriage, it's been tremendous. 3 years ago, I did the work, and been a tremendous change. I haven't had a problem with my wife since.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
it's amazing. I had problems with her all the time.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it was never her.
I mean, what a awesome, free, loving space to be in, just fabulous. And then everybody can be however they are without me having to go after it and try to fix it or wish it would change or get away from it or whatever it is. There it is, life. And I love also that you're speaking to, it's not as if these difficult emotions go away. It's because like having the full range of the human experience, being a human being, I mean, what are you? Like what it's if you feel the thing, it's too late. The mind will say like, you should not be feeling like that or whatever. It's doing its judgment thing, but it's too late. You're already feeling it. The mind has something to say about everything. And it's nice to have that work because it'll just relax. And, the don't know mind is a easier place to be. I sometimes have had the thought, noticing, just sort of the noticing, the recognition, like I was putting my mind to so much work, like it's got to figure out everything. I mean, absolutely everything, like why the world is like this, and why you are like this, why those other people are being, and the meaning of everything. What's the meaning of life? What is life for? And it's got to figure it all out, every single bit. And then I gave it a humongous job, like, wow, what a relief. What a relief for the mind to let it just be whatever reality is. And we don't know why. No, human beings do not know why the earth is the way it is. People are like the planet is showing up, like, why do I have a hand? Why do we have two hands? I mean, it's just good question. Don't know.
Well, and again, because of the universe being a friendly place, the clues and the hints for all that have been there. Because that just reminded me of one of my favorite book stories, book lines, Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where there was in the story, there's a group of people trying to find out the meaning of life. And they said, okay, we're going to do this. And they spent every resource they had and spent thousands and thousands of years constructing a mega computer. And they waited and waited. And they said, we're finally going to get the answer to the ultimate question of the universe. And so they said, what is the answer? And the computer spits out 42.
Yeah. Right. I remember that now. Yes.
Yeah. And they were like, 42? And it's the computer, and the computer, a big thought. The name of the computer says, yes, the answer is 42. And they're like, well, we don't get this. It's been thousands of years. We spent every resource. We don't get it. And the computer said, oh, well, the reason why you don't get the ultimate answer is because you really don't know what the ultimate question is. And they said, oh, and they said, well, how do we get that? He goes, well, you're going to have to build another computer. So they did it again. They built another computer, and they spent thousands and thousands of years. And finally, the computer's ready. I'm ready with the ultimate question. And they go, okay, sweet. What's the ultimate question? And the computer said, what is 7 times 6? And they were, and I remember that going, oh my God. And I mean, I pretended to get the joke. Oh, it's very British. It was written by a British guy. Hello, and I thought I knew what it meant, but I had no idea. And now I get all of that. It's like, oh, like the whole idea of the Matrix, all of that is just like, oh, the idea that we're on a path, I think is so funny, in the Matrix, the little child says, you can't bend the spoon if you think there's a spoon. That's impossible. And I think, well, I've always said I'm on a path. I want to be on this path to be enlightened. And it's like, oh, I can't be enlightened if I think there's a path. If I don't think there's a path, then I can be enlightened. And of course, many people like Adyashanti have said, oh, you're already there. You just don't know you're there. There's nowhere to be. You just have to know that you're there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there is no spoon. There is no path.
You know, that's
42.
I love it. That's a fabulous inquiry, is writing down or speaking out loud, listening to the thing, like you talk out, just say it. Why you believe you are not enlightened.
Yeah.
And here's why, you know, and that'll be those, and then question those thoughts.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
I really need to be more enlightened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And it's so, well, for me, it's so simple, Grace. You know, the work is really simple. It's deep, it's complex in all of it, but my mind gets it. It's just, my mind just gets it.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there's something out there for everybody. It may not be the work for everybody. I don't know, but I just know that the universe is for everybody. So of course they're going to get it, or they're not going to get it because that's what they want.
Yes.
You know, it's
no right way, no right or wrong.
I know. I feel so good as a parent. Like, my kids get to do whatever they want now, and I don't have to worry about how it looks for me and how it is for them.
Yeah.
It's really amazing to go, yeah, you know, whatever you think works.
Yeah. I mean, wow, what a relief.
And to, you know, and to be able to, you know, really love somebody as they are and just let them go. And I don't think there's a better gift I can give anybody. And of course, what am I doing but giving it to myself? I'm just loving what I think I see anyway, you know, which is really me. So it's an easy job to love me. And then if somebody else gets something from it, well, that's cool too.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So that's what the work has done. Not much in my life. Yeah, it's really been a failure. I think I'm gonna just sell Amway. I think that might be my ticket to enlightenment. Something. I don't know. Maybe there's something.
I just loved that you wanted to share your story, and it's the best. You know, it's so fun to hear everybody's experience is unique to them because it's your own. You know what you're unique because you've selected what you see as your own stress and pain and suffering. But I love the way you describe it. It's just fantastic that, like, you know, I'm contending with things. That's what I'm all about. That's my identity. I'm ready.
Oh yeah.
Let's fight.
I'm ready to fight the world, which is me.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's like that Eagles song, you know. I mean, it's always so. Oftentimes it happens. We live our life in chains, and we never even know we have the key. Yeah. Because I'm already gone. I don't know. Something about eating a sandwich all by yourself. Those lyrics maybe don't make as much sense as those last ones. But it is fascinating that it's like the universe has sent it to us, which is why humanity is awesome, because humanity keeps saying the same cool things in any language we want it to.
Yeah.
How great is that?
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Love that. That's a great example.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so awesome.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you. Inspiring. Super inspiring. Yeah.
Oh, well, right back at you, Grace. It's always fun to talk with you and be with you and work with you. That's always cool.
I know. I love it. It's a blast. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.